Hey guys, in this video, we're going to be talking about why people with anxious attachment patterns might cheat. Now, I know the topic of cheating is a really big one and it's really sensitive, and a lot of people understandably carry a lot of hurt about that if they've been on the receiving end of betrayal in their current or past relationship. So I really want to acknowledge that and just be abundantly clear that in this discussion or any other discussion of infidelity, I'm never seeking to excuse or condone cheating, but I think it's essential that we can de-shame the conversation around infidelity and get curious around what is the precursor, what was going on for someone within themselves and their relationship in the lead up to them making that decision. Because I think it's only when we can really engage with that and reflect and look honestly at what was going on that we can seek to understand and ultimately repair both within ourselves if we were the one who did that and in our relationships. So in this video, we're going to be talking about anxious attachment, and I've got other videos on dismissive avoidant and fearful avoidant attachment and cheating as well that will look at those attachment styles specifically and what the key drivers might be for someone with those attachment patterns when it comes to cheating in relationships. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephanie Rigg. I'm a relationship coach and host of the On Attachment podcast, which is the world's leading podcast on attachment theory and how attachment styles shape the way that we live and love. And given this is a video about anxious attachment, I'll just mention that I have a free training on how to heal anxious attachment and finally feel secure in life and love. I really recommend checking it out if you're an anxiously attached person yourself and you are looking to shift into a more secure attachment. This is very much my bread and butter. I've helped thousands of people on the journey from anxious to secure attachment. So it's definitely worth checking out my free training if that's you and it's something that you're working on. Okay, so let's talk about why anxiously attached people might cheat in their relationships. Now, it's probably not the first thing that comes to mind because we know anxious attachers' baseline tendency is to want to stay in relationship, want to hold on, want to get close to their partner, want to have this perfect relationship. And yet the reality is for a lot of anxiously attached people, they will spend a lot of time in their relationships feeling unimportant, feeling like they're not a priority, feeling maybe undesirable, maybe feeling a bit neglected or ignored. And those are really like warning signs for infidelity, I think in any relationship, but in this context for anxious attachment. When someone is feeling really invisible and neglected, and particularly when that someone is a person who relies a lot on external validation, as we know anxiously attached people do, when you are so oriented towards looking to the people around you to be a mirror of your worth, if the most important person is reflecting back to you a picture that says you're not important to me, you're not desirable to me, you're not worth my time and attention, then that's going to leave someone with anxious attachment patterns feeling extremely vulnerable and confused and scared. And so with that as the backdrop, it makes sense that there would be a susceptibility to looking for that attention elsewhere, looking for that validation elsewhere. And so what you might find when it comes to anxious attachment and cheating, and maybe you've been in this position, is that there's been some spark with some person outside the relationship, and it almost always has this flavor of meeting the need or reflecting back to you your worth in a way that the primary relationship isn't. And so it becomes this way of confirming that actually, yes, I am interesting. Actually, yes, I am desirable. Actually, yes, I am attractive. And so what will often start as an emotional connection, and for some anxiously attached people, it will stay an emotional connection. I think of the attachment styles, emotional cheating is probably most common among anxiously attached people, but there can be a connection that starts to build. And not only is the anxiously attached person getting certain needs met in that side relationship that they might be pursuing, and maybe it's kind of innocent at first, but then it starts to build, and they might experience some limerence with respect to this person, meaning almost like an all-consuming obsessive infatuation with someone. And as that starts to build, not only are they getting the needs met, but they're also getting this reflection of, I'm not too much. I'm not asking for too much. People are out there who are willing to meet my needs, and building this whole fantasy around this other person as being the perfect partner potentially. Now, where it gets complicated is that a lot of anxiously attached people aren't deliberately pursuing that with a view to leaving their primary relationship. But I think as things go on and the side relationship might become more attached and more intense, and again, I think the likelihood of becoming emotionally bonded with the person that they're cheating with is definitely highest among anxiously attached people. What you might see is that the anxious attacher uses it as sort of a mate switching strategy, to use their evolutionary psychology language, meaning, if they feel like their primary relationship is maybe on its last legs, even, at the same time as they're trying to prevent that from happening and they're trying to hold on, they might be feeling the inevitability of it, or kind of preparing their backup plan so that they've got this smooth, like, off-ramp and on-ramp into the next relationship, rather than having a relationship end and then being empty-handed, being single, being alone with all of the discomfort that can come with that. The idea that they've got someone lined up and waiting in the wings, even if that doesn't become a fully fledged relationship, it provides comfort that I am desirable and there are people out there who are interested in me and who find me attractive. And so that can really buffer against some of the fear around a relationship ending. And so you might see that among anxiously attached people as well, that they use the affair partner, the side relationship, as a way to comfort themselves as their primary relationship is coming to an end, because they can have so much fear and insecurity around that transition. Now, as I said at the start, I offer all of these things not as a way to excuse or condone, but really just to de-shame the conversation so that we can start to engage and reflect. And if this is you and you've been in that position, or maybe you're in it now, the things that are really worth reflecting on and focusing on, because obviously we can hold in one hand the validity of the experience that leads to the cheating, feeling neglected, feeling invisible, feeling unimportant, not knowing how to get through to someone, and feeling like maybe all of your attempts at getting those needs met have been backfiring. And so you're kind of left feeling very powerless. All of that makes so much sense. And at the same time, we can recognize that cheating and getting those needs met outside the relationship in a way that breaches trust and boundaries is not the best thing. That's not what we want to be doing in our relationship. So the growth edge for anxiously attached people, I think, is really taking ownership. If it gets to that point and you feel like you have no other options but to look elsewhere for validation and attention, maybe that's the point at which you need to consider pulling the pin on the relationship, on calling it as being incompatible, or, you're just really not getting your needs met, or maybe needing to advocate more directly for your needs rather than, going and getting them met in those more shadowy ways that might be out of integrity with the kinds of values that you really want to be exhibiting in your relationship. So that's the growth edge for anxiously attached people, is standing firm in your values and your self-advocacy before you get to that breaking point of needing to go elsewhere to get the needs met. Okay, guys, going to leave it there. I really hope this has been helpful. If you don't already, please subscribe to my channel. That would be a huge help. And be sure to check out my other videos on this and other topics relating to attachment and relationships. Okay, thanks, guys.